The alarms blared across the United Earth Defense Force headquarters as Admiral Kim rushed into the command center. Technicians scrambled between stations, their faces pale in the glow of emergency lighting. Kim's second-in-command, Captain Han, met him at the central console with worry etched across his features. "Sir, you need to see this," Han said, typing rapidly. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a message that made the room fall silent. "Surrender or be eliminated. You have 30 Earth days to comply." Admiral Kim adjusted his glasses, studying the strange symbols that bordered the text. "Origin?" "That's the thing, sir," replied Han. "It came from just beyond Neptune's orbit, appeared out of nowhere about 30 minutes ago. The thermal imaging..." Specialist Officer Yoon called out from her station. "Sir, we've got visual confirmation of the source." The main screen split to show a vessel unlike anything humans had built or imagined. It resembled a massive sea creature, with a sleek main body and what looked like tentacle-like appendages that glowed with pulsing blue energy. It hovered motionless, as if waiting. "Are those weapons?" Kim asked, pointing to several protrusions. Along the ship's hull, the weapons analyst, Dr. Kang, nodded gravely. "Based on the energy readings, each one could level a small city, and that's just the scout ship." The room fell silent again as the implications sank in. "How do we know it's a scout ship?" Kim asked. "The message refers to they coming," Hani explained. "This is just the messenger." Within hours, the news broke worldwide. Kim watched from his office window as the streets below filled with panicked civilians. Some carried signs proclaiming the end of days, while others rushed to stock up on supplies. The global stock market crashed within minutes of the announcement. World leaders convened an emergency session of the United Nations. Kim attended virtually, listening as politicians argued over whether to attempt communication, prepare for war, or simply surrender. "We've never faced an extraterrestrial threat before," the Secretary General said. "We have no protocols for this." After the meeting, Kim returned to the analysis room where his best team had been working non-stop on the transmission. Something about it had been bothering him since he first saw it. "Run it again," he ordered. But this time analyze the background noise. The team's lead analyst, Dr. Ju, looked puzzled, but complied. The message played again, this time with the audio. Spectrum displayed below it. "There," Kim pointed. "That pattern in the lower frequencies. It's too regular to be random interference." Dr. Ju enhanced the signal, isolating the pattern. It's data, sir. A lot of it." For the next 18 hours, the team worked tirelessly to decode the hidden message. When they finally succeeded, Dr. Ju called Kim immediately. "Sir, you need to see this. It's not just data, it's technical specifications. Weapons capabilities, shield frequencies, fleet movements, everything we'd need to understand their military technology." Kim studied the decoded information in disbelief. "This is too convenient. Why would they send their weaknesses along with a threat?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Lin, a junior communications officer, spoke up from the back of the room. "Sir, what if it wasn't them? What if someone inside their empire sent this to help us?" The room fell silent, as everyone considered the possibility. "A warning within a warning," Kim murmured. Further analysis revealed more hidden data. The scout ship was part of the Tauran Empire, a vast interstellar civilization that had conquered thousands of worlds across 3 galactic arms. Their usual pattern was to send a warning, wait for the inevitable resistance, then arrive with overwhelming force. "No civilization has ever successfully resisted them," Dr. Ju reported grimly. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours." Kim ordered a complete media blackout on the hidden data. To the public, they acknowledged only the threat. 3 days later, Earth's most powerful telescopes detected movement at the edge of the solar system. More ships were arriving. Dozens, then hundreds. The massive vessels dwarfed the scout ship, each one large enough to cast shadows on planetary surfaces. Kim called an emergency meeting of Earth's top scientists, engineers, and military strategists. The room buzzed with nervous energy as he addressed them. "I won't sugarcoat this," he began. "We're facing an enemy that has never known defeat. Their armada could glass our planet with minimal effort." He displayed the hidden data on the main screen. "But someone within their ranks has given us a chance. These specifications reveal potential weaknesses in their technology. They think we're just another primitive species to be conquered, but humanity has something the Taurans may not expect. We've been preparing for aliens our entire cultural history. The room filled with nervous laughter, breaking some of the tension. Our window is closing, Kim continued. We have 27 days to develop countermeasures using this data. Every resource on Earth is now at our disposal. As the team dispersed to begin their work, Kim stepped to the window, looking. Up at the night sky, somewhere up there an armada was approaching, ships filled with creatures who had crushed thousands of civilizations before them. But they had made one critical mistake. They had given humanity a warning, and humans had always been at their most dangerous when backed into a corner. Dr. Park hadn't slept in 3 days. Her lab at the Global Defense Research Center had become her home. Cups of half-finished coffee scattered among holographic displays showing alien code sequences no human had ever seen before. Her eyes burned, but she couldn't stop now. Not when the fate of humanity hung in the balance. I think I've got something, she muttered, more to herself than to her assistant Jin, who dozed in a chair nearby. Jin jolted awake. What is it? Park manipulated the holographic display, expanding a section of the encoded data. See these patterns? They're repeating, but with slight variations. It's not just technical specifications, it's a message. The hidden data was unlike anything in human experience, a complex blend of mathematical formulas, visual imagery, and what appeared to be emotional imprints. Park's team had developed a neural interface just to process it properly. As she connected to the interface, the room around her dissolved into a swirling cosmos of information. It's beautiful, she whispered, as the message revealed itself in her mind. Hours later, Admiral Kim arrived to find Park slumped in her chair, exhausted but triumphant. We were right, she said, not bothering with formalities. The warning came from within the Empire. A resistance movement made up of previously conquered species. She projected a series of images showing diverse alien beings, some humanoid, others wildly different, crystalline structures with pulsing light centers, gas-based entities contained in mechanical suits, and massive arthropod-like creatures with dozens of manipulator limbs. They call themselves the Unbroken, species that were conquered but never truly submitted. They've been working in secret for centuries, waiting for the right moment. Kim studied the images. Why help us? Why now? Because of what we are. Park displayed Earth's transmission history, centuries of radio signals, television broadcasts, and internet communications that had leaked into space. They've been studying us for decades. They believe humans possess something unique, adaptability on a scale the Empire has never encountered. The data revealed that the Tauran Empire had existed for over 12,000 years, conquering thousands of worlds across multiple galaxies. Their technology was vastly superior to Earth's, but it had plateaued centuries ago. The Empire's rigid hierarchy stifled innovation, leading to standardized systems across their entire fleet. And that's their weakness, Park explained, pulling up schematics of Imperial starships. Every vessel in their fleet uses the same neural link command system. The commanders and crew aren't just connected to their ships, they're connected to each other. Kim frowned. A centralized network? That's a massive security risk. Exactly. But no one's ever been able to exploit it because the Empire crushes resistance before it can develop far enough. Park's eyes gleamed with excitement, despite her exhaustion. Until now. The following day, Park called a meeting unlike any in human history. In a secured underground facility, she gathered 12 individuals, each brilliant in their field and each slightly eccentric in their own way. Welcome to Operation Last Stand, she began. You're here because you think differently. Among them was Tay, a teenage hacking prodigy who had once breached military networks just to see if I could. Next to him sat Professor Ryu, an elderly quantum physicist whose theories were considered too radical by his peers. Dr. Kwon, a neurologist specializing in machine-brain interfaces, nervously tapped her fingers on the table. Captain Cho, a military strategist known for unconventional tactics, studied the room with calculating eyes. "Conventional weapons won't work against the Empire," Park explained. "We need something they've never encountered before." For the next week, the team worked around the clock, developing what Park called the impossible solution. They combined quantum entanglement theories with neural interface technology and cutting-edge computer viruses. The result was a device no larger than a basketball, sleek, silvery, and humming with potential. "It's a psychic bomb," Tay explained to Admiral Kim during a demonstration. "But instead of destroying minds, it changes them." "A weapon that doesn't kill?" Kim looked skeptical. "The Empire expects us to fight conventionally, to lose conventionally," Park replied. "This device will target their neural network and introduce something they've never planned for: human creativity and unpredictability." The plan was audacious. A small team would need to board the Imperial flagship and plant the device at the heart of their command center. The success rate calculation was dismal, less than 20%, but it was the only plan with any chance at all. Then came the news that changed everything. Earth's deep space monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures entering the solar system. The Imperial fleet had arrived early, much earlier than the 30 days promised. Kim burst into Park's lab, his face grim. "They're past Jupiter already. Hundreds of ships, unlike anything we've ever seen." The team gathered around the main display, watching as the fleet approached. The vessels were massive, some the size of small moons. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls shimmering with energy shields. Scout drones swarmed around the larger ships like insects around giants. "Why come early?" Quan asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why warn us at all if they weren't going to give us the full 30 days? Park's face paled as realization dawned. Because the warning wasn't official. Someone in the Resistance sent it without authorization. The Empire doesn't know we were warned at all. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "How long do we have?" Tay finally asked. Admiral Kim checked the fleet's trajectory. "At their current speed, 36 hours before they reach Earth orbit." Park looked at their device, still untested, still unfinished. "Then we have 35 hours to complete a month's work." Outside, the night sky had begun to change. New stars appeared, too bright, too steady, as Imperial ships drew closer to Earth. The countdown had accelerated, and humanity's window of opportunity was rapidly closing. The sky turned black at noon, not from clouds, but from the massive hulls of the Imperial ships that now filled Earth's orbit. The flagship, a behemoth structure resembling a massive arrowhead with pulsating light conduits running along its surface, positioned itself directly above the Pacific Ocean. Smaller vessels, each still larger than humanity's largest aircraft carriers, spread across the globe in perfect formation. On the bridge of his flagship, Grand Marshal Tech watched the blue planet with 6 cold, calculating eyes. His scaled skin shimmered under the command center's lights, and the neural implants along his spine glowed as he connected directly to the ship's systems. "Primitive," he commented to his second-in-command, "even more so than the reports suggested." Unlike the humanoid Tech, his lieutenant was a hovering crystalline entity whose translucent body contained swirling gases. When it spoke, the sounds emerged from vibrations in its crystal structure. "They've only achieved rudimentary space travel, Marshal. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear, practically Stone Age technology." Tech flicked a clawed hand dismissively. "Begin the standard protocol. Disable their defenses, then launch the dropships. I want complete surrender within 6 hours." Across Earth, military bases scrambled fighter jets and readied missile defenses. In the UN Emergency Command Bunker, world leaders watched helplessly as their most advanced weapons systems went offline one by one. "We're being jammed," shouted a technician. "They've somehow accessed our launch codes." On screens worldwide, military leaders watched as their missiles either failed to launch or exploded harmlessly against the Imperial shields. Defense satellites blinked out of existence with surgical precision. Fighter jets lost power mid-flight, their pilots barely managing to eject before the aircraft plummeted. Admiral Kim slammed his fist on the console. "Where the hell is Park?" Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility designed to withstand nuclear strikes, Dr. Park and her team raced against time. The device, now nicknamed David, after the biblical underdog, was ready, but deploying. It would be another challenge entirely. It has to be delivered directly to their command node, Park explained to Commander Lee, a compact, intense woman who headed Earth's newly formed Special Space Tactics team. Remote deployment won't work. Their outer defenses will neutralize the signal. Lee studied the holographic model of the Imperial flagship. So we need to get a team aboard the most heavily defended ship in the galaxy. No pressure. Her team, 12, men and women from special forces units around the world, had trained for space operations for years, though never for anything like this. They wore sleek black exosuits designed for both space travel and combat, with helmets that displayed augmented reality information. "We've modified your transport," Park explained, leading them to a hangar where a shuttle waited. Unlike traditional spacecraft, this one had a matte black hull that seemed to absorb light. Stealth technology combined with some insights from the Imperial data. It won't make you invisible, but it might confuse their sensors long enough. Lee touched the hull, reverently. Let's hope it's enough. Above them, Earth's remaining satellites detected movement in the Imperial fleet. Hundreds of smaller craft detached from the larger vessels, dropships preparing for ground invasion. "It's now or never," Kim's voice came through the comm system. "All Earth Defense Forces will create diversions to cover your approach. Godspeed." Park's team activated their disruptor, a less powerful version of their main device. It sent a focused electromagnetic pulse combined with a tailored code sequence directly at the Imperial neural network. The pulse wasn't strong enough to disable the network, but created scattered blind spots in their detection systems. "Launch now," Park ordered. Lee's shuttle shot upward from a hidden mountain silo, accelerating at forces that would have crushed unprotected humans. The team's exosuits compensated, allowing them to remain conscious as they broke through the atmosphere in record time. In orbit, chaos had erupted. The Imperial ships, experiencing momentary glitches in their coordinated defense network, fired at phantom targets. Earth's remaining fighter craft, though hopelessly outmatched, launched simultaneous attacks across multiple vectors, drawing attention away from Lee's approach. "We've got a gap in their defense grid," Lee announced, hands flying over the controls. "Sector 7, near what appears to be a maintenance hatch." The shuttle dived toward the Imperial flagship, avoiding energy beams that cut through space around them. A direct hit from one of those weapons would vaporize them instantly. Inside the flagship, alarms blared as systems reported anomalies. Grand Marshal Tech growled in frustration. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Unknown interference in the neural net," his crystalline lieutenant responded. "Localized disruptions across multiple sectors. The primitives shouldn't have this capability." "Find the source and eliminate it," Tech ordered, his 6 eyes narrowing to slits. Lee's shuttle approached the maintenance hatch, which resembled a massive iris made of overlapping metal plates. As they drew closer, the hatch began to close. "We're not going to make it," shouted the pilot. Lee grabbed the controls. "Like hell we aren't." She pushed the engines beyond their safety limits, sending the shuttle into a barrel roll that somehow slipped them through the narrowing opening with centimeters to spare. The shuttle crashed onto the docking bay floor, skidding across the polished surface before slamming into a wall. Inside the damaged shuttle, Lee checked her team. 2 injured, but everyone alive. "Suit up and move out," she ordered. "Remember, we need to reach the central command node. Park says it'll look like a giant sphere with energy conduits feeding into it." The team exited the shuttle, weapons ready, to find themselves in an enormous hangar filled with alien vessels and equipment. Robotic drones the size of cars moved, cargo ignoring the humans at first. Then, as recognition protocols activated, the drone's optical sensors flashed red. "We've been spotted," Lee warned. "Move!" The team sprinted across the hangar as security alarms wailed. Imperial guards, some bipedal with 4 arms, others resembling mechanized centipedes, poured into the space. Energy weapons fired, leaving scorch marks where the humans had been seconds before. Lee led her team through corridors that seemed designed for beings of various sizes. The interior of the flagship was a maze of technology beyond human understanding. Walls that shifted and reconfigured, lighting that responded to thought patterns, and gravity that changed orientation without warning. Using the schematics provided by the resistance, they fought their way deeper into the vessel. 3 team members fell to enemy fire, their sacrifices allowing the others to advance. The David device, carried in a reinforced case, had to reach its target. On the bridge, Tech received reports of the human infiltration with disbelief. "Impossible," he snarled. "No species has ever breached our defenses." But as security footage confirmed the humans' advance, his disbelief turned to rage. For the first time in his long career of conquest, Grand Marshal Tech felt something unfamiliar, a flicker of doubt. Commander Lee pressed her back against a pulsating wall as energy blasts scorched the corridor around her team. Only 7 of them remained now, each breathing heavily in their battle-worn exosuits. The ship's internal defense systems had become increasingly aggressive, floating orbs that fired concentrated plasma bursts and serpentine robots that slithered along walls and ceilings. "Junction ahead," said Corporal Wu, consulting the holographic map projected inside his helmet. "Central command node should be 2 levels down." Lee nodded. "Jin, Pak, cover our rear. The rest of you with me." They moved as one, a synchronized unit forged through years of training and the last desperate hours of combat. Their weapons, hastily modified with insights from the alien data, managed to disrupt the Imperial technology just enough to give them a fighting chance. As they approached the junction, the light suddenly dimmed. The attacking drones froze, then clattered to the floor like dead insects. "What just happened?" whispered Song, the team's demolitions expert. "A panel in die." The wall slid open, revealing a hidden passage. In the opening stood a figure that made the team raise their weapons instinctively. The alien was roughly humanoid, but with striking differences: iridescent blue skin that seemed to shimmer with subsurface light, large almond-shaped eyes with vertical pupils, and 4-fingered hands with retractable claws. She wore what appeared to be a modified Imperial uniform, with certain insignias removed. "Quickly," the alien hissed in perfect English. "Before the systems reset." Lee didn't lower her weapon. "Who are you?" "My name is Nara. I'm the one who warned your planet." She gestured urgently to the passage. "We have minutes, maybe less, before security protocols reactivate." After a moment's hesitation, Lee nodded to her team, and they followed the alien into the narrow passage. It led to a maintenance shaft that spiraled downward through the ship's inner workings, a dizzying array of pulsing conduits and humming machinery. "I've been waiting for you," Nara explained as they descended. "The Resistance has operatives on most major Imperial vessels, but we've never had the opportunity to act until now." "Why help Earth?" Lee asked. "What makes us special?" Nara's vertical pupils dilated slightly. "In 12,000 years of conquest, the Empire has subjugated over 4,000 civilizations. Most surrender immediately. Some fight conventionally and lose. A few attempt to negotiate and are destroyed anyway." Her expression shifted to something resembling admiration. "None have ever done what you're doing now." They reached a sealed door at the bottom of the shaft. Nara pressed her palm against a scanner, and the door silently slid open. "The central command node," she announced. The chamber beyond was vast and spherical. In its center floated an enormous pulsating orb, a swirling mass of energy contained within a crystalline shell. Countless cables and light conduits connected to it from all directions. "The neural hub," Nara explained. "It links all ships in the fleet, all commanders, all systems. It's never been breached before." Lee removed the device. "David." From its protective case. It seemed impossibly small against the backdrop of Imperial technology. "Why did you really help us?" Lee asked as her team secured the room. "There must be more to it than our unpredictability." Nara's expression darkened. "My homeworld was the 49th to fall to Marshal Tech. We were peaceful, advanced in arts and philosophy rather than warfare. He turned our oceans to glass because we took a day longer than demanded to surrender." She touched a series of scars visible on her neck. "Some of us were kept alive to serve. For 3 centuries, I've waited for a chance at, not revenge, change." A distant explosion rocked the ship. "They've discovered your entry point," Nara warned. "We have minutes at most." Lee activated the device, which projected an interface that linked with her exosuit's systems. The plan had been to simply disrupt the Imperial neural network long enough for Earth's forces to mount a proper defense. But something in Nara's story stirred a different idea. "We're changing the plan," Lee announced to her team. "Park designed this to temporarily blind their systems, but it can do more. It can show them something they've never seen." Her fingers flew across the interface. "Everyone, jack in. Feed your helmet recordings into the device. Show them what we've experienced, what we've fought for." One by one, the team connected their exosuits to the device. The crystalline orb began to pulse with new patterns as it absorbed their data. "What are you doing?" Nara asked, fascinated. "Teaching them about humanity," Lee replied. "Not just our weapons or tactics, but who we are." Above them, on the ship's bridge, Grand Marshal Tech roared with frustration as reports of the breach reached him. His 6 eyes blazed with fury as he slammed a clawed hand on his command console. "Bypass all safety protocols," he ordered. "Charge the planet killer. I want that world reduced to atoms." His crystalline lieutenant hesitated. "Marshal, standard protocol requires—" "Nothing about this is standard," Tech snarled. "These primitives have breached our flagship. Make an example of them that will echo across the galaxy." In the neural hub chamber, Lee's device fully activated. The hub's crystalline shell began to glow with increasing intensity. "It's working," Nara whispered in awe. "The signal is propagating throughout the fleet." The device wasn't simply disrupting the network, it was feeding new information into it. Through the neural link, every being connected to the Imperial systems suddenly experienced a flood of human memories, emotions, and history. They saw Earth's ancient civilizations rising and falling, humans continually rebuilding from disaster and war. They witnessed art being created in caves by early humans and symphonies performed in grand halls. They felt the emotions of parents protecting children, friends sacrificing for each other, and strangers helping strangers during crises. Most powerfully, they experienced humanity's relentless adaptation, the drive to overcome, to innovate, to survive against all odds. The concepts of freedom and choice, alien to most Imperial subjects, flooded through the neural network like a virus of hope. "They're seeing us as we truly are," Lee said. "Not just another conquest, but something new." Throughout the fleet, Imperial crew members paused in confusion. Many removed their neural connectors, overwhelmed by the flood of unfamiliar sensations. Others remained connected, transfixed by images of human resilience and creativity. The chamber. Door exploded inward as Imperial guards finally breached the room. Nara stepped forward, facing her fellow aliens. "You've felt it now," she called out to them. "The truth the Empire has hidden for millennia, that there are ways to exist beyond conquest and servitude." To Lee's amazement, the guards hesitated. Their weapons lowered slightly as the neural feed continued to affect them. On the bridge, Tech watched in horror as control of his fleet slipped away. Ship after ship reported crews disconnecting from the neural network, commands being questioned. Dropships returning to their bays. "Impossible," he whispered. Then louder, with desperation cutting through his Imperial composure, "Fire the planet killer now, while we still can." The weapon began charging, a sphere of destructive energy growing at the front of the flagship. It would take only minutes to reach full power, minutes in which the fate of Earth hung in the balance. In the neural hub chamber, Lee saw the energy readings spike dangerously on her suit's display. "They're charging their main weapon," she announced grimly. "The device isn't working fast enough." Nara looked from the humans to the neural hub, her expression resolving into determination. "Yes, it is," she said quietly. "It just needs more time, and perhaps a stronger connection." Grand Marshal Tech's claws dug into the arm of his command chair as warning lights flashed across the bridge. The planet killer weapon charged slowly, its power core glowing with ominous intensity. Through the massive viewport, Earth hung suspended. Against the blackness of space, blue, vulnerable, and yet somehow defiant. "Why isn't the weapon at full power yet?" Tech demanded, his 6 eyes narrowing to angry slits. His crystalline lieutenant hovered nearby, its internal gases swirling in patterns that indicated distress. "Marshal, something is happening throughout the fleet. Crews are disconnecting from the neural network." "Impossible!" Tech slammed his fist on the console. "Force reconnection! Override their autonomy protocols!" As he spoke, the bridge doors slid open. A reptilian officer entered, his movements stiff and uncertain. "Marshal, I must report. The dropships have returned to their bays. The crew refused. Deployment orders." Tech rose from his chair, his massive frame towering over the officer. "Refused, execute them immediately for treason." "Sir, it's not just one ship. It's happening across the entire fleet." The neural broadcast from the command hub had spread faster than anyone anticipated. Throughout the Armada, crew members of 100 different species were removing their neural implants, their eyes wide with new understanding. The human signal had bypassed the Empire's control protocols, feeding directly into the minds of those connected to the system. For the first time in their lives, many were experiencing concepts long suppressed by Imperial conditioning: freedom, choice, compassion, without weakness, resistance without futility. Most powerfully, they felt the human capacity for hope in the face of overwhelming odds. On a support vessel, a four-armed engineer ripped out her neural connector and addressed her stunned crewmates. "They fight not because they can win, but because they refuse to surrender to inevitability. Have we ever considered that option?" Aboard a destroyer, a commander with translucent skin revealing pulsing organs beneath turned to his security chief. "Stand down, weapons. I will not fire on a world that has shown us there are alternatives to conquest." The rebellion spread ship by ship, moment by moment. In the neural hub chamber, Nara watched the readings with growing hope. "It's working. The fleet is standing down." Lee checked her tactical display. "Not all of them. The flagship's weapon is still charging. 3 minutes to firing capacity." Nara's expression hardened. "Tech won't stop. He's never been connected to the neural network. He considers it beneath him. He won't be affected by your broadcast." "Then, we need to take out the weapon directly." Lee turned to her remaining team members. "Target the power conduits feeding the planet killer." As they prepared to move out, a massive explosion rocked the ship. Emergency barriers slammed down, sealing them in the hub chamber. "He's locked down the ship," Nara explained, "and rerouted weapon controls to the bridge." On the bridge, Tech manually bypassed the neural systems, rerouting control of the planet killer to his personal console. His remaining loyal officers, those few who had never fully integrated with the neural network, worked frantically to maintain control of the flagship. 2 minutes to firing solution," announced the weapons officer. Tech's mouth twisted into a cruel smile. "The Empire has never failed to complete a conquest. Earth will be no exception, even if I must destroy it myself." In the neural hub chamber, Lee's team tried desperately to break through the barriers, but Imperial technology proved too advanced. "There must be another way," Lee insisted, looking to Nara. The alien's iridescent skin pulsed with excitement. "There is. The neural hub doesn't just connect to the fleet systems, it connects to all Imperial technology, including the planet killer." "But we can't send a shutdown command," Lee argued. "The weapon is on a separate system now. We can't shut it down," Nara agreed. "But we can overload it." Understanding dawned on Lee's face. "You're talking about reversing the energy flow through the hub," Nara nodded. "It would create a feedback loop in all connected systems, including the weapon's power core. That would destroy the flagship," Lee realized. "Along with anyone still in this chamber." "Yes." Nara's vertical pupils dilated with emotion. "For 3 centuries, I've waited for this moment, not for revenge, but for a chance to end the cycle." Lee looked at her remaining team members. They had all volunteered for what they believed was a suicide mission from the start. Their expressions now showed grim determination. "Get to the escape pods," Lee ordered them. "That's an order. Someone needs to tell Earth what happened here." After a moment of hesitation, her team reluctantly moved toward an auxiliary exit Nara had revealed. Only Wu hesitated. "Commander, it should be me who stays." Lee shook her head. "Earth will need soldiers like you for whatever comes next. Go." Once they had gone, Lee turned to Nara. "How do we do this?" Nara approached the neural hub, placing her 4-fingered hands against its crystalline surface. "The hub recognizes me as an authorized user. I can initiate the sequence, but it requires constant contact during the process. I'll cover you if security breaks through, Lee promised, readying her weapon. Nara began the sequence, her hands moving in complex patterns across the hub's surface. The massive orb's glow intensified, changing from blue to purple to a dangerous red. On the bridge, Tech watched with satisfaction as the planet killer reached 90% charge. Targeting solution complete, his weapons officer announced. Firing in 30 seconds. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. The lieutenant's crystalline body vibrated in distress. "Marshal, power surge detected in the neural hub." "Impossible," Tech roared. "I locked it down." The surge is redirecting through all connected systems, including the planet killer's power core. Tech frantically worked his console, trying to isolate the weapons systems. "Disconnect everything from the hub." "Too late," the lieutenant responded, its voice filled with something new, defiance. "The process can't be stopped." In the neural hub chamber, the crystalline orb pulsed with increasing intensity. Nara's hands were now fused to its surface, her body absorbing massive amounts of energy. "You need to go," she told Lee, her voice strained. "The feedback loop is established. In 1 minute, the weapons core will overload." Lee shook her head. "I'm not leaving you." "Please," Nara insisted. "Your world needs to know what happened here, what we discovered together." A series of explosions rocked the ship as power conduits began rupturing throughout the vessel. The barrier to the chamber partially collapsed, revealing a path to escape. With a last look at Nara, Lee sprinted through the opening. Behind her, the alien smiled peacefully as the hub's energy flowed through her body. On the bridge, Tech watched in horror as the planet killer's energy reading spiked beyond safety parameters. The weapon was tearing itself apart, taking the flagship with it. "Evacuate the vessel," he ordered. But even as he spoke, the bridge erupted in explosions. From Earth, witnesses watched as the massive Imperial flagship suddenly blazed with light, not the concentrated beam of a planet killer, but the chaotic brilliance of a ship, tearing itself apart from within. The explosion rippled outward, beautiful and terrible against the backdrop of space. In the aftermath, the Imperial fleet remained in orbit, but their weapons powered down. Communication channels opened between ships and Earth's leaders. Representatives from dozens of formerly subjugated species requested permission to land, not as conquerors, but as diplomats seeking a new beginning. 3 days later, Admiral Kim stood in a field outside Beijing as a sleek alien shuttle descended. Its design was different from the Imperial vessels, more elegant, less threatening. Beside him stood Dr. Park, still exhausted but filled with wonder at what had been achieved. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you first decoded that warning?" Kim asked her. Park shook her head. "I thought we might survive at best. I never dreamed we would change them." The shuttle landed, and a delegation of 7 different alien species emerged. They approached with gestures of peace from a dozen different cultures. Their leader, a towering being with 4 arms and feather-like appendages, bowed deeply to the human representatives. "We come seeking not conquest, but connection," it said, in carefully practiced English. For 12,000 years, the Empire knew only one way to interact with new civilizations. You have shown us another path. As diplomatic talks began, Kim found a moment alone, gazing up at the night sky, where Imperial ships now moved into new formations, no longer positioned for attack, but for protection, forming the first defensive perimeter of a new galactic alliance. He thought about Commander Lee, who had managed to reach an escape pod and had been recovered from the Pacific Ocean hours after the flagship's destruction. Her final report had said it perfectly. The Tauran Empire had conquered thousands of worlds with their technology, but they had never encountered a species whose greatest weapon was the refusal to accept defeat as inevitable. The warning that was meant to give Earth a fighting chance had given the galaxy something it had long forgotten: the belief that a different future was possible. The end.